Speaking of perfect situations, I do believe that these college football playoff rankings are only put out for people like us, for people that have shows, so that they can generate conversation about college football. Because right now, who knows what's going to happen the rest of the year? Who knows what team's going to show up and what team isn't going to show up? But right now, to generate conversation and to generate buzz, the College Football Playoff Committee put out their first official first four in. They are as follows. In fourth place, hailing from State College, Pennsylvania, Penn State, who take on the Minnesota Row the Boat Gophers this weekend. PJ Fleck just signed a 7-year extension, probably worth millions and millions of dollars, and I couldn't even fathom what the buyout is. They just signed him because the FSU job just opened up. The SC job's supposed to open up. Potentially Notre Dame job's going to open up. If you're a guy who's had success everywhere you go, you lead the Gophers to an undefeated start. That AD knows that these schools that have big old pockets are probably going to try to come get old Sky U Ma, PJ Fleck. Neckton mentality. Always hungry, never full. Wanting more. Motivational speaker, PJ Fleck. By the way, comes on our show, gets a 7-year contract extension.
Just goes to show you.
I mean, that thing's probably worth $30 million.
At least.
Give or take.
That thing's probably worth $50 million.
I was going to say, I would guess he's probably making what? To stay there, like at least $4 to $5 million a year? Probably $5 million a year?
7 times 5, quick math, 35.
Yes.
Probably $40 million. The buyout's probably $20 million like old Willie Taggart had down there at FSU. These college coaches are in a good spot. If you're a good coach, you're in a good spot because this college football landscape never is settled unless you are a big dog. Speaking of big dogs, number 3, Alabama. Nick Saban's Alabama squad is at number 3 right now. Is that potentially because we don't know what's up with Tua's ankle? Do we not know how Tua will hold up for the rest of the year? Why is Alabama at number 3? Nobody knows. Number 2, down there in the bayou. Coach O and the boys. Brand new offense. Been able to slice and dice teams. No more are we the team that's just going to pound you to death on offense and then suffocate you on defense. The LSU Tigers are now a team that takes it to other teams with Joe Burrow lighting it up. Potential Heisman winner, number 2 team LSU. And the number 1 rated team by the College Football Playoff Committee, who I got to hear a few of them speak at the college football orientation program that ESPN put on. Couple older whites talking. Older whites. Ohio State. The Ohio State. Number 1 team in the land, which is interesting because Urban Meyer's name is such a hot commodity in this coaching world. He leaves and their team gets better somehow. And the reason why, I believe, is because Chase Young on the defensive side, a lot of people are arguing he's the best player in all of college football. And then you talk to people who are in the know, who know things about stuff, especially this type of stuff. Guy from the Elite 11 camp and has been around, knows all the quarterbacks. He says Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the country, and it's not even close. I'm like, wait a minute. More than that Air Bear kid over in Oregon is supposed to get drafted first? That's better than him. I'm like, what about Joe Burrow? Better than him. Justin Fields, I guess, is the truth. So when you have the best player on offense on one team and the best player on defense on the same team, that makes sense that they're number 1, that they're up there in there. But if you're Clemson and you're the Tiger fans, you're like, hey, what the hell is going on here? The hell's going on? Is Dabo Swinney still our coach? Yeah. Is Trevor Lawrence in that Maine still taking snaps for us? Yeah. Did he start out a little rocky? Yeah. Yeah, he won a national championship as a freshman, took over the world. Of course he's going to have a little bit of an offseason of fun. Away from his parents for the first time. Away from quarterback camps for the first time. Away from quarterback counselors for the first time. No matter how humble you are, when you're on top of the world as an 18-year-old, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult not to look around and smell a little bit.
It is. It's true.
So he stumbled out the gate a little bit. And by stumble, they still won. I think he still threw like 18 touchdowns or something like that, or 100 touchdowns in the first week. He just threw a couple picks. They didn't look great. They struggled against UNC. So now Clemson falls out of the top 4. And if you're a Tiger fan, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But everybody knows that at the end of the season, Clemson's going to continue to roll, and they'll be in it at the end. It's almost like the College Football Playoff Committee did this strictly so I would say that Clemson deserves to be in there so that everybody would talk up Clemson, who's the reigning national champion. It's kind of a smart move, which leads me to the next point. Is this list all BS?
Without a doubt.
Is this just complete BS and mean absolutely nothing? Are you telling me that I'm talking about something that means nothing? Sure feels like it. Because who cares? What if Ohio State goes out there and loses the next 4 games?
Well, I saw at least 8 teams, I think, still control their own destiny, and if they win out, they could get in. So
yeah. LSU and Alabama play each other, this weekend? And then Penn State and Ohio State are going to play in, 2 or 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be completely different.
So right now, what we are reading is a list of who the best teams in the country are from a group of people we don't know who they are. So an anonymous group of humans who are in a very powerful position released a list of their best teams in the country, and this is them. So I guess we got to talk about it because those said people are the ones that picked the 4 playoffs at the end. So now at least we get a chance to see inside their brain to see which way they're leaning, who they're looking at. Obviously, they like the Big Ten a lot, and they like the SEC, which everybody's going to know. And since I've gotten a chance to call those Thursday night games, I've gotten a chance to kind of bebop around the country and chat with coaches, and the conversation always turns towards the playoffs. Always. And when I sat down with David Shaw, Stanford, and it wasn't just me, it was the whole crew, we asked him about it, and Stanford used to be a very prominent program. Heisman winners, a lot of NFL players, but they're in the Pac-12, which is kind of a victim of the East Coast bias over there. And we asked him about the playoffs and what they should do. And he said, he thinks there's a pretty easy answer, and I agree with him. The the NCAA football playoffs should be 8 teams. Everybody knows this. Should be the champions from the Power 5 conferences. So let's make the championships in the actual conference play mean something. Even if a team loses early, they still have a chance to win their championship of their league. They should get in. Let's take the 5 champions from the Power 5 leagues. Just makes too much sense. And then the last 3 spots, those are at large bids. So if another UCF comes through and just wins like 75 games in a row, but they never get a chance to play against anybody because they didn't know that they were going to be that good whenever they were scheduling games for the next 4 years, give them an at-large bid. If Georgia, who struggled against South Carolina early in the season, can continue to get hot, put them in there. If Minnesota goes on and dominates all year and loses in the Big Ten championship against a team that's already in the playoff, why not give it to them? What about the Baylor Bears, who are currently undefeated? They'd be in there because of the Big 12 championship, but what if Oklahoma wins and they're in there? Then let that committee debate on who the 3 at large are. Let the conferences decide who the 5 are, and then whammy, everybody's happy. We got more games, we got more money, we got more opportunity for schools that think that they should have opportunities, like the Pac-12 schools, which they should, by the way. It simplifies everything, and everything makes sense. College football's big thing is every game matters. And I guess that's accurate, but I think a much more accurate statement would be every game matters until you lose your first one. Until you lose your first one. And then once you lose your first one, see you later. You're probably not going to be in the college football playoff conversation if you're not in the SEC or not in the Big Ten. If you're in any other conference other than those, once you lose one game, sayonara. Your team might as well not even exist. That hurts attendance. That hurts everything. That hurts ratings. Whenever people are like, oh, this game doesn't really matter. And back in the day, by the way, Fiesta Bowl, I got a chance to win one of those with the team I was on. Awesome. Sugar Bowl, I got the chance to win one of those back in the day. Awesome. All these bowl games that used to be so revered, they mean nothing anymore. Nothing.
People don't even play in them.
Nothing matters anymore other than the college football playoff. So to act as if every game matters. Now, granted, they're still getting a stipend. The kids are still getting an extra 2 weeks of practice to get better for the next season. Yes, they get another chance to play football and represent their school. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Like Fiesta Bowl championship, whenever we won that, a BCS was a big deal.
Huge deal.
BCS was a huge deal. Now, granted, the BCS only happened because the NCAA sold its rights to declare a champion to the BCS. Right, so we had a BCS champion, and you have the BCS
Such a
Bulls.
wild maneuver.
They did that. So you'd go to the NCAA Hall of Fame, and they would have the D1 AA champion as their champion because they sold their rights to declare a champion. So that is just a hilarious thing. But everybody wanted a playoff. I was on a team, by the way, that wanted a playoff bad. Our West Virginia team in the Big East Conference was not given a lot of love. We won a lot of games. We were dominant a lot. And if we had this 8-school thing, I think we would have gotten that large bid. I think we would have been able to sneak in and made something play. But there's a lot of teams that are still suffering from that right now. Yes, the 4-game was better than what it used to be. And I think that's kind of their thing. Well, do you want to go back to the BCS? No. Everybody hated the BCS. I mean, I love the mountain bike I got for playing in the Sugar Bowl. I love getting a chance to go to Atlanta and Scottsdale and Charlotte in Jacksonville with the team to play in a bowl game and to win them. I love those opportunities, but in the grand scheme of things, if we're going to talk for real, none of those games matter other than the playoff game. And if you lose one game, you're out of the big-time conversation. David Shaw referenced a USC team from a couple years ago. They lost early to Alabama. I guess they just got trampled. Then they bring in Sam Darnold to play quarterback, and they didn't lose again. But since they lost to Alabama early, their name, because they were in the Pac-12, was basically thrown out. But if they would have got in, that team would have beat anybody. And that's just the way it goes if you're not in the SEC or the Big Ten. If you lose a game, you're out of conversation. Every game matters until you lose one. And I think there's a lot of those stories around college football. I think there's a lot of people that probably agree with me. I think the only people that don't agree with me are probably Alabama, LSU.
Right.
Big name schools.
The old guards.
The old guards, which, by the way, congrats to them. The ability to stay on top for that long is not easy. It's just like the Patriots. It's very hard to do that. But I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of on the outside. They're like, hey, we want to take a swing at these dudes. We want to take a swing at Saban. Now, granted, anytime you swing at something that big, there's a chance you might eat a couple right in the face. There's a chance for a couple buzzsaw blowouts in these playoff games. But that happens in the NFL playoffs. That happens in every form of playoffs. In high school, you play playoffs. In Little League, you play playoffs. In the NFL, you play playoffs. But in college, it's just 4-team playoff. It's like, come on. They say, well, they don't want them to go an extra week or whatever. We'll start the season a week earlier. Easy. Easy peasy. And let's just move forward and make college football what it truly is. Not only the best environment, but the best football product that could possibly be. Sounds good to me. Pretty happy we just fixed that.